Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of Lockdown Conversations with me, Khunmir Syed. First of all, thank you so much for your support on the first episode. A lot of people did write back with their feedback, and I want to incorporate that, but slowly going forward as well, because there are some limitations. Stuck in a different city with limited software, so I'm trying to improvise as I go. Now, let me introduce my second guest, who's got quite a fan following, I must say, because as soon as I put out that post of this person coming on my show, and there were like just flurry of comments asking me, "Oh, is the episode up? Can I see it already?" So this guy's got quite a fan following. So let me welcome Viraj Seth, ladies and gentlemen. He's the co-founder of a company called Monk Entertainment. Monk
Yes,
Entertainment
bro.
is into your influencer management. It handles one of the biggest names in the Indian influencer industry. Along with influencer management, it also takes care of your social media management and your other bits as well. So, which kind of encompasses it to a whole 360 solution. Viraj, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're on my show, man.
Thank you so much, man, Kunmir. It's a pleasure being here. I'm really looking forward to the conversations.
Yeah, so great, Virat. So because I saw a couple of interviews of yours earlier, so I saw one particular
Right.
video with your co-founder, which I don't know, many of them really don't really know about it. That Ranveer Allabadia, who's Beer Biceps, is also a co-founder of your company.
Yes, he is. He is. We started this together.
Okay, great, great, great. I think the first question that I want to ask you is a lot of people are wondering right after your engineering, right? So you started this company. So how did all of that happen, and how did you kind of
Okay.
get started with it?
Bro, for me, it was, right after my engineering. When I was in my last year, I personally knew Ranveer. Ranveer was like 2 years senior to me
Okay,
in college itself. We were in an engineering college called DJ Sangvi.
okay,
Right, and we had interned together. We were really close friends. He had introduced me to a lot of things that I didn't know existed in
okay.
college. You know what I mean? So you know what seniors do. So
Right.
for me personally, my vibe with him was that he was the popular kid in college, and
Okay.
I was like, okay, dude, if I have to be popular in college, I have to chill with the popular seniors.
Okay.
So so just this one time after freshers, he was hosting our freshers,
Okay.
and I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, dude," I tried to strike conversation,
Hmm.
but he was really rude to me. He's like, "Back off, dude!" Like, he just want to scare off some juniors. So
Okay.
that was like our first interaction ever.
So you were
But then
like
after that,
a year junior to
I
him,
was
or
2 years. I was
2 years?
2 years younger to him.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how our first like conversation started,
Okay.
and then it was like we started working together. He had an internship that he was looking to get from first year
Okay.
student. So he just called me up and he's like, dude, this is what I'm doing, let me know if you're interested. And I
Okay.
was like, dude, nothing like it, this is something I'm going to latch on to.
Uh-huh.
So that's how we became friends.
Mhm.
Right after college, when I was in my fourth year, actually, Ranveer came back to college. I was heading the entrepreneurship cell of my college.
Mhm.
And, like every committee, so my personal goal was to get a certificate at the end of it. To be honest, I didn't want to do this for the good of the college or anything, right? I, I,
Okay.
I was going to apply for my master's in the US. So
Okay.
I knew that I need to have some cool extracurriculars up my sleeve.
Okay.
So I was the president of the entrepreneurship cell, and I realized that okay, I need some speakers on my roster to
Mhm.
be able to hold some events in
Mhm.
as part of the committee. I
Mhm.
didn't have a network back then, and I knew that okay, Ranveer, he had graduated 2 years prior to me, and he was doing somewhat something cool in the space of YouTube.
Mhm.
I knew that he had trained Tanmay Bhatt, who was a huge deal. AIB
Wow.
was like the biggest
Okay.
deal back
I
then.
don't think a lot of people
I was
know
like,
that, by the way.
yeah, everyone knew like AIB in college also
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, cool, let me reach out to this guy and call him for a session of sorts
Mm.
about how to pursue, a different career path
Right.
after engineering.
Mm.
So I got him on board. We did a talk with him, and then we reunited because we weren't in touch after he left.
Okay.
So he's like, dude, this is what I'm doing. This is the kind of work I'm going ahead with. Is there a chance that you can come and manage me? And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like what even is YouTube management?
Right.
I don't think there's any money involved, or there is like, this is a very nascent space, right? But he really sold me the dream.
This was when in 2000?
This was 2017 January.
Okay.
And I'm supposed to graduate in June 2017.
Okay.
Right. So this is the time by which I had already applied for all my universities in the US.
Right.
And I had already landed. Yeah, I had already landed a job in a consulting firm. So this guy's like, dude, this is what I'm looking at. Honestly, you have nothing to lose right now. You're in your last year of college. Your attendance is not going to be an issue.
Right.
You've almost cleared it. So why don't you just like jump in the ocean and try to swim? So I'm like, okay, cool. Let's give it a shot. And this is also something that I didn't know I really wanted to do, but I was fresh off watching Entourage, and Entourage has this whole vibe about, artist management that they glorify in the Hollywood, right? So I was like, wow, being an agent in Hollywood seems like a cool thing. What's the closest thing that can happen to that in India? It was either Bollywood management or cricket management. And I was like, boss, wo to ye age mein cross karna was impossible because I didn't have connects in either spaces. Right. I'm a very like middle class Gujarati boy, stays in like North Bombay. I didn't have any connects. So I was like, cool, let's figure something might pop up always.
Yeah.
So Ranveer had reached out. Then I was like, cool, let me just slap it up and see if I can land you some brand deals. He had told me that, okay, I'm at 100K subs right now, which was a big deal then.
Yeah.
Let's start monetizing that content and that reach. So that's how it started. I didn't take it up completely initially. I still did my consulting job for 3 months. And luckily, unluckily, I didn't get into any of the universities in the US.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it was like a blessing in disguise of sorts. So what used to happen is I still did my 3 months of consulting job because for me to tell my parents that, guys, I'm going to graduate as an engineer, but I'm going to do something like YouTube management was a ridiculous thought to my parents. They're like, you're joking, right? Like, there's no way there even exists a space like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I understand that they are coming from a place of care. And what I need to do is I need to show that I can make enough money from this that I do from a salary that I'm getting from a consulting job. And that is probably when they would be open to even giving it a thought that, okay, this guy's quitting his job, so that's all right. So that's how the whole journey started. Even during those 3 months of my consulting job, I was constantly trying to crack deals for Ranveer. I used to go in the washroom and take calls for Ranveer's deals. I used to not take lunch breaks, and I used to constantly be on the phone in that 1 hour lunch break gap that I used to get between 1 and 2. I used to schedule all my brand calls during that period.
Wow.
So there's a very interesting story to that as well. That after a lot of that kept happening, my managers got to know that they sensed something strange. They're like, dude, who the hell are you talking to like so much? They came and confronted me, and I was taken aback completely. I wasn't in for this. I didn't expect this to come my way.
Right.
So anxious. I also panicked. What I said, I could have said my girlfriend, I could have said my friend, I could have said anything. I ended up saying my mom, which is the most ridiculous like answer. I don't even think they bought that.
Right.
But,
so that's
but that was the journey. That's how I started. I set foot in the media space per se.
Wow, man, that's really interesting because a lot of young kids, right straight out of engineering college, I think a lot of them, because they have their e-cells and all of that right now, entrepreneurship is big, and little do they know that there's so much of hard work that kind of goes behind it. Absolutely. Right? I mean, right before you kind of actually started this full-fledgedly, there was this 3-month duration which you kind of tested yourself and saw whether you could do it or not.
It was where I had to prove to my parents that, okay, this is a stable source of income. Right. This is not a joke. This is not just a passion project or a hobby. This has got potential to turn into a full-fledged business.
Interesting, man. Interesting. And you work with the biggest names, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, right from
looking
Ranveer,
them.
there are right from Ranveer to all of there are a lot of others who also mainly the
So
men's.
yeah, there's Beer Biceps, there is Bunic,
Okay,
we worked a lot with Mumbai Karnikhil, Flying Beast.
nice.
We also represent this guy Ted the Stoner. He's one of the biggest
Oh
meme
yeah, yeah.
pages.
Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, we have a huge variety of talent across like music, food, fashion, tech,
Hmm.
vlogging, lifestyle, stuff like that.
Nice, nice, nice. So you guys started with influencer management as your
Yes,
core, and then
yes.
now you've expanded, right? So tell us a little more about that. So what does Monkey do right now?
Right. So it started, yes, initially started with like talent management. We were like, okay, cool. Let's do a thing where we enable a lot of monetization for new creators.
Hmm.
So creators back then in 2017, um, properly making money from brand deals was not even a thing.
Hmm.
YouTubers were relying majorly on your YouTube revenue
Hmm.
because back then it was only the TVFs and the AIBs of the world that were monetizing their content,
Yes.
that were getting the were receiving a lot of the inward queries of branded content and brand marketing,
Hmm.
right? So we realized, okay, cool, why can't we step in and sort of replicate what has been done for Ranveer for like
Hmm.
a host of YouTube creators
Hmm.
across spaces.
Hmm.
So we started with fitness because that was a natural category. I knew a lot of brands in that space,
Hmm.
so I knew almost all of the protein brands,
Hmm.
the supplement brands, a lot of health food brands, athleisure brands, and things
Hmm.
like that.
Okay.
So that seemed a very natural fit. So all I had to do is I had to go pitch a bunch of other artists
Hmm.
to these brands.
Okay. Okay.
So and that's how it started cracking. And once the artists also realized that, okay, this guy's actually roping in monies for us,
Hmm.
they that trust always builds, right? So
Yeah.
for me, always one thing that I've believed in is that um, I've always tried to execute faster than what my words say, so
Hmm.
that they believe that I'm actually bringing value to the table. So
Hmm.
every time I do a call with them, I don't tell them or start with, okay, here is the contract. You sign up with me. Only that is when I will do the work.
Hmm. Hmm.
Initially, the thing is you always need to prove your metal, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that leverage back then. Maybe now we do that to an extent. I
Hmm.
didn't have that leverage back then where I could just, put out a contract and say that, boss, you first sign with me on an exclusive. Only then is when I will be able to get you deals.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I was that 22-year-old who had a point to prove,
Yeah.
because from the perspective that I had quit my job, and
Hmm.
if I wouldn't succeed in this, I would either have to go to the US for my masters or have to do an MBA.
Hmm.
And that was both a sort of an issue for me, because I didn't really want to go to masters.
Hmm.
I wanted to get beyond the engineering spectrum. I was not someone who really enjoyed engineering, to be honest.
Hmm.
So I was only going there as an escape to a better life,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That's really what the thought process was.
Hmm.
And with MBA, my grades in engineering were really pathetic. Yeah, matlab, I scored like a 7 GPA,
Hmm.
and I knew that for me to get into the IIMs and the likes, it was going to be very difficult.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I was just in that zone that if I'm not going to the best colleges, I probably don't want to take up the course initially.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that was the mentality. So it was always like, okay, you have to crack this deal because you want to be able to pay a few salaries. You
Hmm.
have to crack this deal so you can move to a bigger space. You have to
Right.
crack this deal so you can land more talents.
Hmm.
So it was all just like building small blocks
Hmm.
of the foundation and then turning it into a much bigger thing.
Wow. Nice. So initially, how big was the team? Like, I mean, like you said, you had to pay off salaries initially,
Yeah.
right? So,
So
uh,
it was, it was about like 3 people, 3 to 4 people.
okay.
Luckily, our first hire was someone who DM'd me on all platforms saying that,
Okay.
dude, I don't care if you pay me,
Uh,
just get me onto working with you. I just want to work on something cool.
wow.
He was interning at some entertainment company, and uh, the thing is, what I've realized is that in India the work culture in a lot of companies is quite toxic,
Hmm.
and the way that interns are treated is really not cool, man.
Yeah,
So that is something, and that I have faced that as well. So
yeah.
I had interned a lot during my college days,
Right.
and I know that I was not regarded as an asset at all. I was just literally the guy who was told to get some coffee, or do some very like database mining work, stuff
Right.
like that.
Trust me, man, in
Whereas,
advertising, because I intern in advertising, so you have to go get printouts. Like you have to literally run to the other end to
exactly,
go get printouts. So I'm guessing it's a little better for kids
yeah,
right
it's become much better now, because what I feel is, especially in this era when pop culture is so relevant, right?
now.
When you're communicating as a brand,
Mm.
or when you're even in an agency culture, you need people who can constantly relate things with your brand to pop culture, because that is what is going to create the virality.
Right.
Interns are someone who have all the time in the world and are actually constantly consuming a lot of the current pop culture content.
Mm.
So they are the ones who will be able to come up with the freshest content ideas, the
Mm.
freshest scripts, the freshest like meme content ideas and things
Mm.
like that.
Mm.
So you really need to start valuing them from that perspective.
Right.
So I don't know where we were going with this, but yeah, the first guy was
Yeah.
the first hire was a guy who just literally messaged me on all platforms,
Yeah.
and he's still with us, and he's like a big asset to the
Wow.
company now.
Okay.
So we've almost started a new wing of business, which is our retainer business
Nice.
with him,
Nice.
where we work with a lot of brands and execute retainer influencer programs
Oh,
with
wow,
him.
nice. Retailer influencer programs are
Yes,
a new thing, right? So because
yes,
earlier it's always been a project sort of a business. So
exactly.
tell us a little more about how does this kind of work, the model, the kind of work.
So how this works is essentially that now we've realized we worked so closely with certain brands, right? We've realized what their requirements are.
Right.
And while, of course, the requirement may still be on a project basis level, because, okay, there's a new launch of a product, or there's a new sale going on, or things like that.
Mm.
Now the brands have realized that there is enough input, enough output for us to keep investing and reinvesting in a model like influencer marketing.
Okay.
That putting out like certain brands realize that YouTube as a platform is the second most used search engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your product is in the space of consumer goods, you want people to know how to use your product. So if it's a face cream, if it's a face mask, if it's say an electric toothbrush, for example, you need to constantly have enough content populated on YouTube as a platform, so that the whenever you type, okay, best face mask available in India as an example, your brand should pop up in at the top. Best electric toothbrush in India, your brand should pop up at the top. So it's more so from that perspective, that content is always, now it's become like an asset.
Yeah.
And every time you invest in an influencer, that content piece is going to stay on the platform for life. And especially a platform like YouTube, which is so search led, it is always important to keep building your brand presence on the platform.
Yeah, especially with so much of noise out there and so much of clutter.
Exactly.
Yeah, you need that, right? So you need the reinforcement time and again.
Absolutely. So we help them with like everyone from a microest influencer. So it could be someone who has, say, even 5 to 10,000 subscribers,
right,
to someone who has millions of subscribers.
Nice. Because a good point, because I remember when we first met, I think this was for a project that we wanted to do with a men's grooming brand.
Yes.
And I said, okay, this is what my client wants, and these big names. And then you said, listen, bro, I think these are the names that will work for you, even though those were at a lesser cost. I think that was what I loved about you. I mean, in terms of the suggestions, even though these were costing me more money, you suggested something which was better for my brand, which was at a lesser cost, and like humor as an element at that point of time.
Exactly. So that's always been our sort of motto as a company as well, right?
Yeah.
That first of all, I strongly believe that when you bring in a certain value add to the table, you are going to want to establish and build trust with the client, right? When I know that I'm really not going in for the short term money, I want to retain the client for such a long term that every time that I engage with him, he or she is getting certain value add from me. And now, while you, and like you clearly mentioned, there have been many times where clients have come to us saying that we are willing to spend on a bigger creator. You give us that creator. But I've gone to them and said that no, this creator is not the right fit for you. There is a creator at a better cost and in a deeper niche who will be able to bring way more ROI to you than a creator who's just got a very like wide reach.
Right.
So that's because then I know that that's when my suggestion will work. He will come back to me and say that, okay, now you tell me who else should I engage.
Right.
So it's from both perspectives. It's from a monetary perspective also, and it's also from a perspective that usually how we are perceived as a company is we are a really young company.
Yeah.
So a lot of the brand managers or brand heads usually think that, what the hell, like these kids don't know what they're doing.
Okay. I have to confess, Viraj, right at this point.
See, we have a live example.
So you remember the other person who was there with me, right? So this elderly gentleman who was about 45 or so. He thought, okay, what are these bunch of kids going to give us? Like, I mean, because we were at a big media company at that point of time. What is this bunch of kids going to give us? So that was the first reaction. But I
get a lot. Plus, I have a baby face, man. So, I mean, I don't even look my age. I'm 24 and I look like 20 or something.
24? Oh my God. Okay, that's a revolution. Like 24 and running a successful company, man. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's the case. So it establishes both things that I'm in it for your best interest.
Right.
And I also know what I'm doing.
That's amazing, Viraj. And is it completely bootstrapped, your company right now? It's completely bootstrapped. Okay.
Yeah, we're a completely bootstrapped company. We've had opportunities for investments.
Okay.
But to be honest, I'm a Gujarati man. So the perspective that I've come from is that kuch bhi karo, like this is something that my dad has also taught, that no money is ever free. That every time you take someone else's money, you will be accounted for the last penny. So if you need money, absolutely make sure that you are going to double that money for that person and give it back to them. Or else don't take that money, go at a slower pace, but at your own money, at your own cost. So that's something that I learned from my family. My dad's been a businessman for a while as well and has run a lot of like bootstrapped organizations. So that's something that was like always ingrained in me. Okay, dude, you have to, and honestly, from an agency business perspective as well, right? There is not a lot of like incurring costs that you have. You don't have heavy machines. You don't have
apart from manpower.
Like the highest cost is your human resource, right? The employee salary cost.
Yeah.
So we expanded only basis when we had like enough monies in the bank to ensure that we can pay at least like 6 months of salaries if we were to do no business for longer, which is also why we've been able to survive through this crisis, luckily.
Okay.
Because we've always like planned 6 months forward. That imagine that, okay, if there is zero revenue coming in for 6 months, will you still be able to hold the company without having to fire people left, right, center?
So that's been your primarily point that you kind of look at. Like 6 months would be a point that you.
Yeah, 6 months of salary in fixed deposit is something that we always like wanted to, as a safety net ensure. Right. Because more than anything, man, I don't want like if there's like we have like 35 employees in the company. I don't, if there is ever a crisis like there is right now, to be honest, we don't want to just relentlessly fire people, because that's like we've honestly tried to build a family culture, and I know that sounds very cliche coming from a founder, because that's literally what every founder will say.
Right.
That it's not a company, it's a family. But we've genuinely like tried to keep that young hustler vibe in the organization. I am possibly one of the oldest like members.
Whoa. 24.
That says a lot, So a lot of the team members we have are like just freshly graduated, 21, 22, maybe a year or two of experience. We have certain experienced veteran leaders in certain positions that are needed, but mainly the ops team and the content team and all of that, the creative team, they're all like young people or people my age.
Wow, nice.